right, here we are.
Welcome, everybody, to Alex and DJ Watch a Doc. I'm DJ.
I happen to be Alex.
He happens to be Alex, and we happen to be overjoyed that you're here with us for another episode. Today, we are talking about Summer of Soul, which is a great documentary that Questlove just made about a 6-week concert series that took place in Harlem in 1969. The footage was laying dormant for 50 years until they unearthed it and made this incredible documentary. So that's what we're going to talk about right now.
That's right. It's a Questlove John.
Did we find out how to say that?
I don't know if we found out. I know I did some work.
Did you? Because you can't even Google how to pronounce John because it's slang, right?
Well, it is slang, but I found the root of it.
Oh, what is it?
It's John, right? Jawn, and it. Some people don't like. I think it's from Philadelphia, and they don't think it comes from joint, but it seems to have a clear connection to joint. And joint is, basically it just means a thing, a person, a thing. It can mean everything. It has such a broad spectrum. It has, I think, more. It's a larger umbrella of things it can mean than joint.
Okay,
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So
it's like joint, only even more
so, yeah. Anything can be a John. I had my John on the John, and then the John happened. It's like, you could use it like that.
Do you ever use the word John? Look at this segue. Right. Do you ever use John? Let us know. Text us at 707-506-6257. Come on, that was good.
It'd be great if it was 627 John.
Maybe it is.
Jawn.
No, it's not.
No, it's not, but that's fine. Yeah, anyway, yeah.
So this movie was incredible. The fact that it took place in 1969 and this footage looked so crisp. Obviously, they probably remastered it and colored it. And
everything. It actually sounded good, too. That's actually what stood out for me is that, again, may have been remastered. Do they remaster sound, too? Is everything being mastered?
I think so. God. If you listen to like a Beatles album now, it sounds way better than it did even 10 years ago.
You can remaster pictures and remaster sound.
Yeah, or did you see...
I gotta remaster my life. Hey, okay.
I saw this, I forget what it was called, but it was a BBC thing, I think, and it was all like frontline British soldiers from World War I, but they had colorized it.
Right.
It looked amazing what they can do with... that footage was obviously very rudimentary.
Yeah, better. Yeah, the colorization's been better. Been made. It's a lot better than it used to be because it really did look like someone just did some water painting on top of a black and white photo.
Yeah,
it's gotten somewhat better, but even still, you can always tell like it's not quite color.
You know the time I noticed it the most, although this would have been color footage, right? 1969.
Oh yeah, this was color for sure.
But what I did notice was when at the beginning, that incredible sequence of Stevie Wonder drumming.
Sure.
Did his drumming start to look, did they speed it up or something? It started to look almost artificial to me. Oh. I don't know if he was just such an otherworldly drummer that it looked like that, but none of the other footage took on that characteristic.
CGI. They CGI'd
yeah, Stevie Wonder's
drum. Arms, and he'll never know.
Have you ever heard the conspiracy theory that he's not really blind?
I haven't, but that's a good one.
It's like a real thing if you look it up. There's like one thing where like a mic almost falls and he grabs it. Or
yeah, that's really committing to it, huh? That's like Andy Kaufman not being dead. It's a real commitment.
It's true. Yeah, he's not.
Okay. Stevie Wonder. It was cool when he was drumming. It's always nice when you see multi-instrumentation. And
it's crazy that it surprises you because obviously he's an amazing musician. Yeah. You're like, of course Stevie Wonder can drum.
How many studio hours has he put in?
Yeah.
That he isn't going to go on the drums and start playing around and maybe practicing a little bit here and there. Plus he's just great and he's got nothing else to do. He's blind. Is that wrong for me to say? Listen,
I know some lazy blind people, okay?
All right.
And I say that with the utmost respect to the blind community.
Right.
I'm showing them respect by saying that some of them are not good people.
Because you don't have a beef with the blind community.
Not at all, no.
You guys don't have beefs.
No. Maybe there might be a deaf-blind beef, but I don't feel it. Only love in my heart for the blind community.
That's really good.
But not Stevie Wonder, because he's not blind.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, though, if he was, like, faking it? Like, imagine if, like, you know how there's all this talk about UFOs now and the government has kind of been like, yeah, you guys were right. UFOs are real. Imagine if Stevie Wonder, like, on his deathbed was like, yeah, you guys, you were right. Yeah.
He would give you, it's one of those things, too, just like last week we talked about the Dick Gregory wink at the end. He just do this and go.
He was only 19 at the time of this concert?
That's right, and he'd already had so many Motown hits, and he was going through a transition. Like he was kind of, 'cause that was the cool thing about the concert was there was like this transition from like that kind of Motown guys in suits doing the dance to then like kind of deep, heavier funk and the psychedelic, what do you call it? Psychedelic soul or whatever. I guess like what Sly and the Family Stone was.
Yeah.
So it was this interesting real transition where you saw both sort of generations on the same stage. Well, both generations. There's also like old gospel singers and all that sort of thing. It was great to see like that, seeing the transition of all the different genres within black music.
Yeah. Actually, I read an article about this Summer of Soul, but they didn't mention it in the documentary. But when Sly and the Family Stone came out, it took them a few songs for the audience to warm up to them, because whatever that genre is called, whatever Sly and the Family Stone is, psychedelic funk, let's say, wasn't completely accepted by the black community in Harlem yet. So by the time they got to Higher near the end of it, or Ordinary People, they were grooving, which is the footage we saw. But this article said the first couple songs, people were just sitting there stone-faced, not knowing what to make of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't see. This is funny. It's this funny thing, right, about editing.
Yeah.
Is that it just looked like they were just had him rocking right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's funny, like when they had the comics, right? They had the ventriloquist. What was his name again? And then Mobs Mabley, is that her name? Right?
Yeah.
And they do a joke and they would cut to the audience just killing themselves. Clearly just a cut, like a hard cut, where you're like, okay, maybe not that one joke. Maybe they did get that laugh. Maybe not for that one joke. So there were moments where clearly editing is keeping the energy up. They had to cut down, how many, 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
Of footage. I heard actually Questlove, I can't remember his full name. I don't know if you know his full name.
It's Amir. It'll come to me. I love Questlove, man. I follow him on Instagram. The guy's an encyclopedia of musical knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
I love him, man. He's amazing.
Maybe I got to follow him too.
He's great. He's really great. So many John.
He actually. Sometimes I might even look at his posts while I'm in the John.
Of course, that's what you do. That's where you do it.
Took a long time. You knew what I was about to say, I feel. Anyway, so he said that in order to prepare for this, he had this footage playing 24 hours a day in every room on every TV. So that way it was just always there. And anytime he got goosebumps, he took note of that.
Wow.
And that's sort of how he DJs and that sort of thing as well. It was like using that method, I guess.
That's how I edit this podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
You just have it on a loop.
Yeah.
The whole day.
Yeah, I'll just be walking through a room and I'll hear you say something. I'm like, Alex killed me with that one.
That's a good.
He looks at Questlove while he's in the John. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I felt sorry for your wife for a second.
Yeah. She's falling in love with you because of just hearing you all day long. He couldn't believe it, Questlove, that this was a real thing, because somebody said, I got this footage from this concert, this magnificent concert featuring the biggest black stars of our time. And he was like, there's no way I would have heard about this. Like the fact that this just sat there without a buyer, without a distributor for that many years. We all know about Woodstock. Many of us know about the Monterey Pop Festival, Altamont, where the Rolling Stones had Gimme Shelter was their documentary shot there. All these sorts of things are part of like lore, like Woodstock especially. And we've never heard of this. Stevie Wonder, staple singers.
I know.
Like, who else? Ray Charles.
No,
B.B. King.
B.B.
Sorry,
King,
not Ray Charles. B.B. King. Who else? I'm missing a huge... Oh, Nina Simone.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think... Yeah, I feel it is one of those things where you think, wow, okay, so obviously they were also trying to sell at the same time they were selling Woodstock. So it was like, oh, well, we already have Woodstock. But even then, like you figure years later, at some point, someone would appreciate so much talent. It just goes to show how irritatingly racist sometimes things can be in this culture.
Well, we've gotten a double dose of it with the Dick Gregory doc last week and this one. So we're like fully, submerged in that era right now, late 60s. And it's like, yeah, man, all the cards were stacked against.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about this was that there was this element of, that strength, that power and that pride and, the idea of black power and all that, seeing that projected, whether it's Jesse Jackson on stage, or whether it's just the musicians themselves talking about it or singing about it. It just was nice to sort of see that, and also that when they described like Harlem, yes, there was the ghettos, but it was also this Camelot they called it. So it was really nice to see, and also it seemed like it would be a lot of fun if you were creative at that time in that situation where everything around you is just bubbling with creativity and excitement in that way. It was nice just as a counterpoint, like just something to see that was positive in spite of the fact that they do touch on a lot of the civil unrest on the, there's some moments too, like when the woman's holding out a pig. Who is this? Was it Huey Newton? Is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
And then the kids say, Huey Newton. And then he says, and where is he? He's in jail. And who put him there? The pigs.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of kids saying that, thinking like, all right, well, they're teaching the next generation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that Huey Newton, it's Huey Newton, right? One of the leaders of the Black Panthers.
Yes.
It was Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, I think, were the two founders. So, yeah, there was all that going on at that time. Martin Luther King had just been killed the year before. So, yeah, and I mean, they even mentioned it in the movie that this was the third year they put on this Harlem Summer Festival. The previous 2 years hadn't been quite as big, but I think Mahalia Jackson had been there the year before, so it was still like kind of big. But this was the year that the organizer, I forget his name, I got it written down, but he was
Tommy? Was that his name? Something like that? Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I got Tony Lawrence.
Yeah, that's right.
He was so charismatic, so stylish. Right. He was like a singer in his own right, an entertainer.
Yes, he was a lounge singer. They mentioned that.
Yeah, but they mentioned that this was probably because there had been riots in Harlem the year before when Dr. King had been assassinated. So this was probably just, the mayor was behind it. The city of New York was fully behind it. It was probably them trying to stop the riots and protests from happening. And that's why they didn't care about producing anything for TV after, because they were like, it did the job. It kept people from protesting.
That was it.
We don't need to do anything with it.
Yeah, they were using that as a way of keeping people happy and off the streets protesting. That's right. It was so shitty.
Do you know what's crazy though? Is I looked up Tony Lawrence after watching the doc. Nobody knows if he's dead or alive right now.
Really?
He hadn't been heard from. He would be in his 80s right now. And he claimed that the mafia tried to kill him after doing this. He tried to bring this concert series back once or twice.
Why was the mafia trying to?
Because they were involved. He said the mafia was involved in the funding. He said white people tried to steal all his money out of it. He said he was visiting, a few years later, he was visiting his friend, the famous actor Sidney Poitier. I looked up how to pronounce it. I've always said Poitier. I've been saying his name wrong, but it's Poitier.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And here you are, a Frenchman.
DJ Damart. But he was at Sidney Poitier's house and he came out and somebody had tried to blow up his car, but it blew up before he got in it. And then Sidney Poitier commented, I do not know who Tony Lawrence is.
What?
Yeah. But so all this happened after this and Tony Lawrence hasn't been heard from in years, but nobody knows if he's dead. But he had all these conspiracies he said about after this festival. But when you watch this documentary, he doesn't look conspiratorial. He looks like a very kind of, they use the word ebullient, which is a great word. He looks very ebullient, effervescent. He knows when to keep the audience in line. Like, whoa, everybody, don't push to it. But he also knows when to keep the party going.
Yeah. He seemed like he was in control, confident, relaxed, fun-loving, knew how to throw a jacket, it landed right on the piano.
What a throw that was. Yeah, you noticed that too. I was like, damn, I rewound. I was like, what a throw.
Yeah. May have been by accident, but it was a good accident.
When he grabbed the mayor, when the mayor tried to leave,
that's right.
And he brought him back on, he's like, we're going to sing a song together.
And you can see the mayor's like, I'm not actually singing, am I? You don't actually mean, okay, it's a joke. Like, let me get the hell out of here. I have meetings.
They liked him. He was a friend of the black community. They called him his blue-eyed soul brother.
That's right. Yeah, because he was, he was a liberal Republican, and he was setting up poverty programs, and one woman said, I got my first job at 16 because of him, because of his programs. So yeah, he was actually a well-liked Republican mayor.
And he went into Harlem when there were protests and riots and
That's
everything.
right.
He wasn't just looking from afar.
Yeah.
And he seemed like he was handsome. I was like, how have I never heard of this man?
Yeah,
He's mayor of New York.
almost has like a bit of a Gavin Newsom kind of quality.
Ooh, yeah, but Gavin Newsom's got a little bit of sleaziness.
Sleazy,
He had
slick,
more of a...
He's more oily, yes.
I saw more like Robert Kennedy.
Oh, right. Or even Robert Redford.
Yeah.
A little bit of that.
Do you love me some Robert Redford? Yeah. Madge brought up a great point. If this is your first time, Madge is my wife. She brought up a good point that Woodstock, when you look at footage of that, it's lots of drugs, lots of people kind of, I like the idea of Woodstock. I'm a bit of a hippy-dippy guy myself. But when you compare and contrast the vibe of Woodstock with this, it was all young, predominantly white people losing themselves. There was crime and chaos there a little bit. This one, there weren't any reports of crime. Everybody seemed to be on their best behavior. And it was a cross-section of society. You saw people in shirt and tie, their Sunday best. You saw people wearing the dashikis. You saw kids. You saw it was a cookout, a barbecue. You saw older people enjoying the gospel music. It seemed a lot more community-based.
That's true. It was a family affair.
Yeah.
Which is one of the songs by Sly and the Family Stone. The Family Stone.
I see. I know.
It's a family affair. No. Anyway, but I'll stop doing that because...
Don't ever stop. I want to hear you sing Sly and the Family Stone.
I just feel like if you watch this movie, you don't need me.
Sly and the Family Stone are incredible. I know them. I know like their bigger hits. And I know a lot of the music of that era, but I've had to get into it on my own. Like my family growing up listened to like early 90s country. When I was in high school, I was listening to like hip hop and Blink 182 and stuff. So, you know what I mean? So I've had to come into older, good music like on my own. So I love the staple singers. I learned about them from the documentary about the band. So I even had to take the white road to find that black music. But and, I love Nina Simone now because Madge loves them. She listened to a lot of Billie Holiday, who's not in this documentary. But Sly and the Family Stone, I don't know much about. Man, they knocked my socks off. Yeah. They were incredible.
Yeah, that's a full band. It was also great. Well, what they noted too is the fact that it was like so many different, it was like all the cultures together kind of thing, as well as women who were playing trumpet. Like that was, was inspirational to be able to see that. That was good. It was nice to see, to see all the, it just, it really felt like that was like a generational shift where it went from this is what we expect from musicians and this is what it could be anything, could be anybody.
The white drummer, they're like, who the hell is this white drummer?
Sure, but he's doing all right.
He had the flu. I saw that in an article.
He had the flu.
He had the flu the whole time he was playing.
Really?
Yeah, I want to go back and watch and see if I can see if he looks sick.
Sometimes that makes you better.
Yeah, you're honed in. You're like, I got to forget about how sick I am and just play the drums right now.
Yeah, sometimes when you're sick, you perform better.
Yeah, but then you're exhausted the second you finish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you gave it your all.
Yeah, and then your body suddenly lets you have all of the bad feelings at once.
Yeah, I gave you that half-hour reprieve or whatever. Now you're mine.
We're shutting this down.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it goes without saying that Mavis Staples and Mahalia Jackson singing the last song that was sung to Martin Luther King Jr. before he passed away. My Precious Lord, I forget what it's called.
Precious. Yeah, that was the one that he was the request. He wanted Ben. What was I can't remember his last name. He was the last words that were spoken. Or to sing Precious, he wanted to hear Precious Lord.
Yeah, and Mahalia Jackson was already in ill health. I looked it up. She passed away 3 years after this concert.
Oh, really?
And she said to Mavis Staples, who was still very young at the time, she said, I'm not feeling so well. Can you help me out with this? And then watching them go back and forth singing that at the end, passing the mic.
Well, yeah, because it was two different sounds too. Like they had two different ways of belting it out. It's funny actually how Mavis Staples sounds like an older woman too, doesn't she? She's got that gravelly older voice.
Yeah.
And they worked well together. Those sounds sounded really nice together.
Sounded so nice. And even like Mahalia Jackson at points almost sounds like she's out of control with her singing, but then it would come back. I mean, I'm not a musician. What the hell do I know? But I'd realize, it's not out of control. Like she knows exactly where she's going with this right now.
Well, the out of control too is an element of where the spirituality of it comes out too, where they were talking about that too, where they do enter into this kind of where you just completely get what is it? Where you just completely let go, and by completely letting go, it's like this full expression, and it's the sense of freedom in completely expressing yourself with no inhibition.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Like you see that a few times during the documentary. You see where people completely are just going for it, just wailing.
It was beautiful to watch.
Whether it's singing or whether it's like, playing guitar or whatever, or the drums or the piano, like whoever was, you really got a sense of that a lot in that particular, I think there was that moment in time where people were really feeling like it was just, I think as they described it, it was the combination of just that cathartic release, but coming from like a lot of pain as well. Mm-hmm. And you feel it. There's a lot of soul on that stage.
David Ruffin from The Temptations, the notes he was hitting,
I know,
casually.
Yeah,
he would just like be singing and hitting like the highest octave I've ever heard in my life.
I know, but also coming from a voice that sounds deeply masculine, and I mean, I love the quality of that voice. And I love it whenever I hear a voice that sounds like that, like like Mavis Staples, like him. They both have that kind of deep, gravelly, almost type of voice, and then on top of that, hitting those. Popping those notes, holding that note.
Yeah,
he was doing a little showing off. They're talking
spinning,
about they're talking about like some people came for just one artist, and then they were talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I forget who said it, but it was Gladys Knight. Mm-hmm. She said a lot of those Motown people all lived just around the corner from each other.
That's right.
I was like, man, just thinking about how cool that would have been. They were all young, just trying to come up in the industry, just hanging out, trying to make music all day long. And
then being successful at it, not only successful, but like becoming world famous. Like they traveled the world based on this sound that was popular among their community, but also completely crossing into other anyone. Really, I mean, it's such a universally enjoyed sound.
Let me ask you a question that I was thinking about while I was watching it.
I'd like you to.
Who do you think would get the worst response for that crowd if they stepped out on stage? Like not a black musician or anything. I mean, like anybody in particular. Like, who do you think would have stepped out onto that stage?
Like at the time?
1969. I was just thinking Steve Martin, I don't even know if was around in 19... And I'm not saying he would have gotten the worst reaction, but I was just thinking how hilarious it would have been to see, like...
So anybody,
Steve
not
Martin,
even a musician.
Yeah, I would... Who do you think... Like, obviously, if, like, known white racist or something. But, I mean, somebody who was, like, generally liked or good in their field would have stepped out there. Who do you think would have made the audience go, who the fuck...
Who do I think?
Because I was just thinking, like, if Bob Hope walked out there at that time, do you think they would have been like, get the hell out of here? Or they would have been like, I guess we'll
hear what he has to say. Why is he here? I mean, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure I even have any idea how to answer it, because I don't know if the crowd might not necessarily think, okay, it's also how somebody's introduced. It could be like, okay, well, maybe we'll give him a second.
Yeah.
But also maybe they might not. Maybe they might start howling.
I mean, well, even the Fifth Dimension said they felt like they weren't black enough, and like, well, they didn't feel they weren't, but they were worried that the perception was that they weren't. So watching them go out there and just, be among the people that they really wanted to entertain, not that they didn't enjoy their mainstream success or anything, but it's kind of a weird thing. I'll speak personally for a second. When I perform for a crowd that's like a lot of hard of hearing or deaf people, I have feelings like that where I'm like, I don't know if I'm deaf enough.
Right.
Where you're almost like, do I belong to this group? And then it's usually unfounded where I'm like, of course I do. Like, these are my people. Yeah. I share a lot of but you almost wonder, like, have I done enough to like prove my...
Yeah, I hear you. Well, sometimes I'm like, I'd rather not play in front of just as Jewish.
Really?
Yeah, because it's sort of like, because my experience is not like there. It's like, I wasn't like, I'm not on the inside when it comes to that community. I don't really feel like, they do their thing and I'm just a bit of an outsider. So for me, I think a lot of Jewish comics feel that way because generally we're outsiders. We sort of feel like we don't buy into the whole like being part of the group, So I feel that way too. I feel like, I don't know because I've seen like people who are better at that, who are more typically Jewish in that way, do well. And I'm like, I don't talk. I don't express myself in that way. So, I know that feeling. Not feeling like they're gonna get me. Mm-hmm. Still, they inevitably do because funny's funny. But and that's what happened with them. They were like, "There's no color to the sound."
Yeah.
It's and I was thinking like it's true. She makes a very good point. But when I first heard that stuff when I was younger, I pretty much thought it was not. I thought it was white. You kind of, because it had that sound of something that like white folks would listen to. Like I was younger and it sounded like an older person thing to listen to, Mm-hmm. It's from a musical. It sounded, if it's from a musical and you look at the musical and everybody in it, for the most part, there's a lot of white people. So I just assumed that music was from the musical. Like it wasn't taken from the musical and then done like almost like a cover. Which it turned out to be. They took a couple of songs and mashed them together and got a huge hit with it.
It's such a funny idea where they were like, we saw Hair. That was the play, right?
Yeah.
Hair. We saw Hair and said, we have to do that song.
Sure.
I was just trying to relate it to us as comedian, where if like I was in the audience at a show, I was like, that's a great joke. I got to do that.
Gotta do that joke. Yeah.
I think I can really do something with that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's like I think there's certain things that don't transfer, like saying like, oh, he's a multi-instrumentalist. I'm sure I am too, like sometimes I'll do an act out, but then occasionally I'll go do a pun. It's kind of like being a multi-instrumentalist.
They were amazing to watch though. The Fifth Dimension.
They were great. They were, and she was pretty.
Yeah. And it was cool watching them watch them. She was still pretty even all these years later.
It's true, yeah.
But yeah, watching them watch themselves, what a trip that's got to be. Yeah. Especially when you've never seen this footage.
Yeah, you kind of thought it was forgotten about too. That's the great thing is that it got brought back out. I think it's great that it got brought back out because it's a great concert and it's great to hear it, and the energy. That's the other thing too about a concert. It's not just the music. I mean, you can listen to the music and you listen to the albums, but it's the energy of the musicians having a good time and the audience and the musicians feeding off the audience's excitement. The fact that it was over like 6 weeks and there were different. I took a screen grab of that. Of the list of things, like it was like a jazz. There was like 1 week was jazz and blues, another one was like Afro-Cuban or something like that. It was they did the gospel was another week, and then at the end it said it was like a Miss Harlem pageant.
Really?
And local talent. That was the last week.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have liked to see footage of the Miss Harlem pageant.
Yeah,
wouldn't that just be interesting?
I figured throw that in there too, because if you're talking about like black pride and of the time, it's an element of like that's like Black Beauty, wouldn't that be part of it?
Yeah, and that was when they just started saying black too. They switched over from Negro to black.
That's true. Yeah.
So it was so powerful every time you heard somebody say like we're black, like because this was like them reclaiming.
Yeah.
Or I don't know about claiming the word black and choosing what they wanted to be called. Mm-hmm. And then it got me to thinking in the last year or two. Now we officially use like New York Times or Associated Press. They use the word black and they just in the last year or two capitalized the B in black. Like
that's right.
That was a big move recently.
Yeah, that was the thing that I heard about that too, the capitalized B as being a distinction as well. Because there was that time too where African American was the appropriate thing to say, but then some people said, well, I'm not necessarily have a direct lineage to Africa, and it became that thing, and then it seems like black came back again.
Black came back again.
Black is back. So the capital B is a recent. How recent would you say that is?
It's like last year, I think.
Okay.
2 years ago, maybe, because I found this article about how they made a distinction that they're capitalizing the B on black, but not the W on white.
Right.
Because. black, I forget their main reasoning, but basically they said if we capitalize the white, we're also playing into the hand of white nationalists who would use that in the wrong way. They basically admitted, Associated Press admitted as much, as being like, we can't give white that much power. I'm like, I guess.
Yeah. That's a tough one, right? Because then the white power people will say, "You see, we can't even have a capital."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. They get to be a capital, but we don't get to be a capital.
Yeah. But white encompasses more. White encompasses all sorts of different. Yeah.
It does. But absolutely it does. But it is a hard. No, I was gonna say I have to be honest. Like if I had to defend one side, if I had to defend that side, I'd be like, yeah. I mean, it is true. I mean, why not? I mean, if it's W represents, how is it that different?
Is Caucasian capitalized?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Man, white, we get no respect, huh?
This is awful. I don't want to have anything to do with this.
Did you see Nina Simone quoting, I forget the poet's name that she was quoting at the end, but the line was like, "Are you ready to destroy white things? Are you ready to kill people?"
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Not mincing words.
Yeah, that was fairly... Well, I mean, look, I mean, it makes sense, you know? I mean, here you are, you're just trying to live your life, and like they're just killing your friends, family, and everyone else. I mean, at some point you're thinking, well, I mean, you know, you won't let me live in peace. Why should I let you live in peace? I mean, it just seems a reasonable response.
Yeah. Why do we always have to be the ones who are controlling ourselves?
That's right. Yeah.
I get it. Nina Simone was a fiery woman, man. Yeah. Like the power she had on that stage. Mm-hmm. My goodness, her slamming the piano.
Yeah, she was a serious. Yeah, she was an take no shit type of personality.
Yeah,
you get a bit of that from that documentary of hers. Do you remember the name of that one? Or
I didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah,
what's bothering, or where did Nina Simone go?
Something like that. Yeah, and I saw that, and it's. I mean, she had it tough, and it made her tough.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be tough to be a. I mean, yeah. The Green Book, whatever you say about that movie, it's a little trite. And have you seen The Green Book? Mm. You know, it's a little, white man learned about the black man through hanging out with him. It's a little, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's trite, I guess I'll go with. But seeing them going to perform in a town, but then also not being able to stay in the same hotel as their white counterparts, or not even be able to get a meal before a show, like that type of thing. That's Nina Simone's life. That's everybody on that stage was dealing with that at that time.
Mm-hmm. And knowing she was a formidable talent, and knowing that she didn't have access in the same way that a white person with less talent would have. That's got to make you angry and bitter.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder if there's any animosity between stars on the stage. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all peace and love within, when you watch the documentary, it's like, oh, look at all these black entertainers coming together within Harlem. But I wonder if there's any beef between people.
I'm sure. I mean, there's strong personalities wherever you go, I'm sure.
Do you know what I found out? Jimi Hendrix wanted to be part of the festival.
Oh, really?
He wanted to be part of it, and he was deemed too radical.
I guess. I mean, his
but
stuff
Nina's
sounds
radical.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like his style didn't sound like, even Sly and the Family Stone sounds funky. You know, Jimi Hendrix sounds like rock.
True.
There wasn't really rock on that stage.
No, you're right. But he was Jimi Hendrix. I don't know. He went and he just played at after shows for 3 weeks straight.
He wanted to hang out.
He would play at blues bars with Albert King all around Harlem for 3 weeks, but never
Albert King, B.B. King.
Albert King,
blues
guitarist Albert
cool,
King. Yeah.
Cool.
So that I don't know what the word radical means there. And one of the articles I was reading was like, it's a pretty loaded word because the light went out. We're gonna keep going. Okay. That's fine. That's going to happen. So here, we got the 3 questions, which I'm enjoying immensely. I feel like they really tie it all together.
Mm-hmm. I'm not as much of a fan, but I like to see you happy.
First question. Mm-hmm. What did you learn?
I learned that there was a big festival. I clearly didn't prepare for this.
That is a big thing, though.
It is. No, I learned. I mean, there were aspects of like individual performers, and also just a little bit more too about the civil rights movement and kind of and the response to it, like this idea of this black pride and power and all that sort of thing. I liked seeing that. That was nice to see that side of it, the kind of cultural rising up in that way too. This type of I think they called it like it was like this shift of consciousness, you know, which was really great to see.
I also, I guess, wasn't prepared because what I was going to say was I learned that Jimi Hendrix wanted to be a part of it, but I wasted it a couple minutes ago.
You wasted your learned.
You know, I guess I learned that Harlem, for all the talk of the heroin epidemic and crime and everything during that era, people referred to it as Camelot, like you said, and paradise. And so any place you're looking at from the outside in, you're like, ooh, I wouldn't want to live there. The people living there are like, actually, this is home, and these are all my family, and I love it here. So it was nice to see it really not demonized and really given the respect and the feeling of community that it had, clearly, from watching it. Yeah. How'd you feel?
Felt good.
Yeah?
Well, it felt good. I mean, listening to the music felt good. I mean,
yeah.
I love that feeling that when good music gets you right there, right in the heart, soul, chest area. I don't know if that's the medical anatomical term, but
the heart, soul, chest, like an ear, nose, throat doctor. The heart, soul, chest doctor.
And then need me the heart, soul, chest doctor. Shouldn't be doing that, but yeah, it was felt good. It felt good to hear such good music, and also just to the passion of, like, you know, even the preaching aspect of it too. Just to feel the passion of like the rebelling against this oppression, you know, the reacting to it and gaining strength. I just felt good to see that, you know.
Well, what I learned was that the NYPD almost didn't even provide security. They had to get the Black Panthers there, and then the NYPD eventually said, "Okay, fine, we'll give you."
We'll help you
but
out.
you have to get your own security. Come on, man.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Although at least they did better than you mentioned this Altamont before, so the Stones. I was thinking that too. The moment I saw Black Panthers, I thought like, oh, that's kind of like the Hell's Angels, except you can count on them.
Yeah, exactly. Hell's Angels, did they kill 2 people at Altamont? I
think maybe one. I don't know if there are 2. I can't remember, to be honest. I thought it was just one, but yeah.
How'd I feel? I felt really great watching it too. I actually want to add a follow-up question to you for this particular segment because there were so many amazing performances. What was your favorite performance?
My favorite performance. That's a tough one. I mean, I don't know if I can. I'm bad at favorites, right? Because different things feel different.
Yeah, true.
I did love the Ruffin.
Yeah,
Ruffin. I did love hitting those notes. That really sent the chills. But also, you know, we talked about it. You know, Mavis Staples and Mahalia Jackson. You know.
Yeah, I loved both of those too. I'm gonna go with, again, hard to pick favorites like you said, but Higher by Sly Stone and them walking off stage. That was pretty amazing to watch.
That's great.
So funky. So yeah, there were so many great performances. So finally, where do we go from here?
Where do I go from here? I think probably I'm gonna download and listen to the soundtrack. I think that's pretty much one part of it. You know, I mean, just try like. Hearing more of that kind of music would be great.
I'm going to have a son, and I'm going to make him a boy preacher. Do you see when Reverend Al Sharpton said I was a boy preacher and showed a picture of himself at like 14 years old? I didn't know he's been a preacher that long. But yeah, boy preacher. I've never heard that term before.
No, I hadn't either.
Boy preacher.
Okay.
But that's not where I'm actually going to go from here. That's not the life I'd want for my son. No offense to any boy preachers out there, but it sounds like a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, Lord.
I'm going to do the same thing as you. I'm going to get into the catalog of a lot of these people. I have a lot more catching up to do than you do. But I'm going to start with Sly and the Family Stone. That's
I love the fact that, by the way, I just realized that I said I'm going to download some stuff. You know, like I'm not going to buy some albums, right? Like it's so clearly a sign of the time. I'm going to download some music as opposed to maybe get an album, go to a store, get an album. No, that doesn't exist.
I'm going to give the artist 0.01 cents on the
That's pretty
download.
much exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. It was a great documentary. I love music documentaries. They might not have as much substance. I mean, this one had so much substance just by the very fact that it was not released ever. So that was what provided the whole context. But it's nice to just kick back and watch amazing musicians just bring joy to that many people. So it was a cool, almost like break from some of the darker stuff we've gotten into. Obviously, there was a lot of social unrest, and it was tied in with some deeper substantial themes, but just watching Stevie Wonder belt out something on the piano, and that felt pretty damn good.
Yeah, and there's like who knows how many more hours of music that might still be available from that specific concert.
Yeah. So what are we watching next week?
Ooh, it's a little something on Frontline. I actually saw it on YouTube, the Frontline YouTube channel, Frontline PBS, The Power of the Fed.
The Power of the Fed. Okay, so we're taking a big turn here.
Sure.
We're going to learn like money.
We're going to learn money. Clearly we don't know much money right now.
I'm going to learn money.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's going to be like, I'm going to have a pen and paper. I'm going to learn stuff here.
We're going to have to try to keep it short, not too much talk about the money we learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, so yeah, that's on YouTube, you said.
That's right.
Join us next week. We'll be watching The Power of the Fed.
I think that's what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Okay,
The Power of the Fed.
Okay.
Right said Fred.
Oh, no. Let's get out of here.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm DJ.
I'm Alex.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.